Today, I'm with Rachel Carpenter, the co-founder and CEO of Intrinio. She also happens to be my sister. Thanks for joining us, Rachel.
Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well, let's jump right into it. Yeah, you started in college as a musical theater major. How the heck did you get from there to fintech entrepreneurship?
It's a bit of a jump, isn't it? Yeah, I've always been kind of split brain, right down the middle, left brain, right brain. I was into singing, acting, dancing, all of the above, loved theater, but I also really loved math and was very good at it. And so that was always a balance for me. And I was studying theater, but just on a whim, I took an intro to finance course and in a very nerdy fashion, saw the present value of money formula and something clicked. And I was like, this is beautiful. And I dove right in, and I'll never forget the class I took because I went straight to the office and changed my major, and I really never looked back. So I'd be lying if I said I didn't miss some of the art side of myself. But I get to tap in there in some other different ways as the CEO of a startup. So that comes in handy. But that's kind of was the pivot turning point when I decided, let me go after learning more about business, entrepreneurship, and finance. And it was being in the business school that brought me to my co-founder, who had a great idea. And then we were kind of off to the races at that point in time.
Nerd alert.
Nerd alert.
Awesome.
Yep.
Do you think you, as like a CEO, you kind of get to be on stage anyway?
Yeah, I mean, you are the face of the company. You're pitching constantly, always from whether you're raising money from investors, helping with big sales calls, partnerships, PR, marketing, speaking engagements. Yeah, you're constantly pitching as the face of the company. And so I think that there are actually some skills I had that really came in handy.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think you're on stage all the time with all of our team. One of your personal mottos is hungry and humble. I know where that came from, but do you want to maybe tell our audience where that came from?
Yeah, I actually have it tattooed on my wrist.
Nice.
So our dad, Andrew's and my dad, used to write me letters all the time. He left me cards and notes and things and just inspirational words of advice. And he would always, at the end of every letter he wrote me, he would sign it, hungry and humble, love dad. So I actually had his handwriting carbon copied from one of those letters and put it on my wrist. But that's kind of how we were raised, who we are. I think what kind of drives us as siblings and entrepreneurs together now. And that has really, I think, leaked a lot through into our culture as a company as well. We've tended to hire people that are really smart, also really nice. And I think that's the balance that everyone should strive for. So it means a lot.
I'm super hungry all the time as well, awesome. In more ways than one. Yeah, I think we've probably started multiple businesses together. I don't know if you remember, but we had a lemonade stand at one point. I have a really cool picture of that, I should probably find. And we misspelled lemonade on it. That's how little we were. Adorable. Lemonade. Yeah, but we also have we made money playing our musical instruments.
Yep, we sat on the side of the road with a tuba and a bassoon and played some mediocre elementary music and got paid.
Yeah, probably just making money for being adorable. So let's talk more about Intrinio. So why does the company exist? What's the problem that you're solving?
So my co-founder and I were originally trying to build an app for investors that would help them determine whether to buy or sell a stock. Very high level. To build anything innovative in capital markets and fintech, you need data because data is kind of like the gas behind everything that happens. And so to build anything innovative, whether it's an app or a tool or a platform or an AI or even an algorithmic trading strategy, anything innovative that you're building, you're going to need data. We illegally screen scraped it from 10,000 plus websites because we didn't know where to get it. And when we found out that that was highly illegal and we couldn't launch our website that way, we had to go out and buy it. We got quoted $70,000, $80,000 a month and realized that there are two huge problems behind the scenes in finance with the supply chain for all of this data. There's 5 companies that have kind of a strong hold on the industry. They use very outdated methods for sourcing and cleaning the data, lots of human capital processes. So getting your hands on this information so that you can build with it is it's inaccessible to people who are just getting started and trying to build innovative things. Far too expensive. And no one's really catered on innovators, engineers, developers, quants, technical end users who require APIs, SDKs, really good developer tools so that they can build with the data. My co-founder and I realized, well, that's the future of the industry. Innovative people consuming data differently, not just to look at it, but to actually do something and build something with it. We knew fintech was going to explode. This was back in 2012, 2013. And that we could reinvent the supply chain for that information to plug it in everywhere that innovation is happening. So plug it into the fintech startups, plug it into bigger institutions who are building apps, redoing their trading platforms, plug in the data and make it accessible and easy to use and affordable for people that actually want to build something. And that became the mission of the company. That's what we've done over the past couple of years. And it's fun because we get to now see our data come alive inside of hundreds and hundreds of just incredible innovations. Our customers are building really cool stuff.
Do you think that the hard time innovators have getting data has a negative impact on like retail traders, like normal people who are looking for tools but can't find them?
Yes. Accessibility to the markets, accessibility to information is a huge problem. And I think a lot of our customers are solving that. I think we have a couple dozen different retail, learn how to trade stocks, get started trading stocks, check out our research. Here's a course for you that really opens up the market to those folks because a lot of businesses struggle to pay for data. Certainly individuals can't afford it. We don't sell directly to individuals, but what our clients are doing with the data is building platforms that does make this accessible for everyone.
Yeah, I think that can make a real difference. So you didn't have a background in programming as a finance major or musical theater person when you were starting Intrinio. How did you learn how to code?
Ooh, it was ugly. I remember literally typing into my computer, how do you code? And just diving. I'm not joking. And I think I found Code Academy. This was, way back, almost a decade ago now, but there was even a decade ago, there were a lot of resources online. And I always like to talk about the skill that I learned through this journey of teaching myself to program, which was the concept of incremental growth. Like you don't have to boil the ocean on the first day, right? Like you have to be an intro. You have to be a beginner for a while and it's okay, right? And so recognizing that I'm not gonna just build a website or like build our algorithm overnight, but I can make a square box appear on the screen and then tomorrow I can turn it blue. And then the next day I can add a header and then just incrementally keep going from there. But if you aren't willing to be bad at something or be a beginner for a while, don't learn how to code. I mean, it is a journey. It's a lot of copy pasting, a lot of copying and cheating and using other people's code. And you just have to wade through it and start doing it, copy other people, sift through the code. I just used the internet, frankly, and a couple different free platforms. Got to the point where between me and my co-founder, we had the first version of our platform completely built. So that I'm sure you understand because you do some coding yourself.
Yes, I do data science, but not quite the same as front end stuff. Yeah. And now you've got a big team of developers, right? I've got a team of data scientists in Trina too. I don't do as much coding anymore. Do you think you'd recommend to startup entrepreneurs that they learn to code, hire a mix of both initially? I mean, it might be possible to hire through any funding. So like, how do you make that transition and get started, going from doing it yourself? Or would you recommend just hiring experts from the beginning?
Yes. Yes. My views have changed a lot on this as I've been in business for longer, because what I realize now is just how competitive the technology space is. So you do not have time to get good. Back to the incremental growth piece, right? You're going to be a beginner for a long time. Like it takes decades to become a really, really, really good engineer. And we have those people on our team now. And I'm like, what if we would have had them that first year instead of, where would we be today? I ask myself that question sometimes. So there is a small caveat here, but generally speaking, I would say if you are in tech and you are starting a business, you do not have time. Trust me, you will not get good fast enough to really make an impact, and someone else is going to enter your space and you're going to be in a race with them. And so I would say absolutely find a technical co-founder. It can be really difficult to do that. I was pretty lucky with my co-founder in that we kind of filled a lot of those gaps for each other. We were both kind of half of a technical co-founder in a weird way. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. It's a slog. The flip side and the very small caveat is that there's this skit that I always reference when I describe this. I don't know if anyone's seen it. It's the joke about project managers, and they're sitting in a room with the engineers, and the project managers go, all right, engineers, I need you to make me 2 lines. They have to be parallel and perpendicular at the same time. And the engineers are like, I don't know how to describe this to you, but what you're asking us to build is impossible. The project manager's like, just build it. And the engineers are like, oh, how do you not understand this, right? And they just don't speak the same language. And so I've gotten rusty, but I think I have enough of a foundation in engineering that not only I think does my team respect me a little bit more, but I understand them. And what I say to them is that, like, because of what I went through, I will never ask you for parallel and perpendicular lines at the same time. And if I ever do, you're free to call me out on it, right? And so having enough of you have to have enough knowledge if you're going to be in a technology company, like get dangerous a little bit, but if you don't have the experience, you are not going to be the CTO.
Enough to be credible, I think. Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about like machine learning and AI. I know you've been, Intrinio's been applying ML and AI to the supply chain for data for a long time, but like why? What is it about that is helpful?
The value at the end of the day for people who are consuming data depends on a couple of different things. It's mission critical, right? If say you're managing $1 billion portfolio, garbage in, garbage out, right? The data, the information you're trading off of, it has to be fast, it has to be accurate, and it has to be affordable enough that you're not, losing out and just unable to even run your business. You can't be a huge expense. For reference, Goldman Sachs spends $400 million a year on data, right? This is a huge industry behind the scenes. So recognizing that what matters to end users is speed, accuracy, and price, right? What most traditional large vendors do is they have teams of hundreds, if not thousands, of analysts that are manually curating data sets. Contrary to what you might think, having a bunch of humans type data into a database is actually kind of scary, right? Because you have the fat finger problem. Not only is it a lot slower, but so now you're missing out on the speed piece, but from an accuracy perspective, we're using math essentially, right? When we say machine learning and AI and algorithmic approaches to cleaning and normalizing data. So our accuracy is actually far exceeding that of the larger vendors because we're taking that approach. And that was very important to us when I started the company. I said, we will never do anything manually. So help me God, right? We are starting a very automated company. We want to streamline this. We want to make it better. And so we're doing right now with a team of 30, what a lot of large vendors are doing with anywhere between 500 and 10,000 people. So not only does that approach using AI and ML mean that we're delivering a faster, higher quality product, it also means that we don't have to charge as much for it, and we can put those resources towards other things like support and tools that really matter to the types of users that we're selling to.
Where do you think the industry's going next?
So there has been all of this buzz about alternative data, and there's new alternative data platforms, and everyone's got satellites looking at parking lots and counting cars and footsteps and social sentiment and all of these things. And this has been going on for a very long time, but it's really becoming mainstream, the alt data space. I'm a little hesitant on alt data, I think, and many people are starting to realize that you think you have a special piece of information that can show you market movement and show you alpha, but the second that any other person also has that information, then the alpha is diminished, right? And so thinking, what I've heard from a couple of the hedge funds at a couple of conferences I've spoken at is that hedge funds are buying a lot of alternative data, but how many of them are using it? Because it's oftentimes unstructured, doesn't fit well into their schemas, or it's hard to consume, people don't know how to work with it, it doesn't link up with any existing models, and that can be a big challenge. So getting access to the data is only one piece of the battle. So I think there are some challenges with alternative data. There's certainly value there, but there's definitely challenges. Selfishly, I'm very excited about natural language processing because I think there is so much information and sentiment and trends out there based on spoken or written words. And we just in the past year have made advancements in natural language processing that allow us to actually take advantage of all that information and get insight out of it. And so the strides that research has made in the past year, it's scary exciting. So, historically, Intrinio is focused very much on quantitative data sets. That's catching my eye, right? We're working on products in that space now. So that is a direction I think the industry is heading that's very exciting. You think that, you talk about inefficiencies, right? Analysts having to read through reports and documents and PDFs. If we can create some efficiencies there, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in the equity research space. So alt data is a trend that I'm worried about. I think it's harder than people think. NLP is something I'm very excited about. Those are just two trends that I kind of have my eye on.
Love it. All right, let's talk less about data and more just about business in general. Like, what is one of a tip you'd like to share with people like who are trying to start their own business, trying to innovate? Like, what is your a business tip that's really helped you?
Well, I'm actually going to steal this one from you because you say it often and you say it in a different way. Andrew at work likes to say, "This isn't my battle this week. I only get to pick one." And sorry, do whatever you want because it's not my battle today. And I've picked my battle, and you better believe I am gonna go to war on it. It's another way of saying almost everything doesn't matter all of the time. Almost everything, right? And it can be really difficult to figure out what your one thing is, right? What is the one thing that will move the needle? In the early stages of a business, it is so critical that you dive in to just that one thing and make sure it works. But it's hard because it requires you to say no to a lot of people. We're both Midwestern. That doesn't come easy for us, but it's been a skill that I've really had to work on. And I think it's super smart with business mentality to have in the beginning, which is, no, I can't have coffee with you. No, I'm not coming to your generic startup conference that none of my customers are going to be at, right? No, I'm not able to take that meeting. There's nobody at that meeting that is going to help me with my one thing. It's just my one thing right now, and literally nothing else matters. And it takes a laser, scary kind of a focus on it. But it's, pick your battles, pick your one thing, say no to everything else. I wish I would have started doing that earlier.
Yeah, and you say it out loud what you're willing to fight about right now at this time. It makes it more salient, and you're like, all right, I have to win this one fight. It's really hard to work with people, I think, and myself included. I made this mistake for a long time in my career where I would fight about everything and anything all the time, and it's just stressful and exhausting, and you can't actually win. You can't win your team over if you don't let them have their battle, let them fight their fight, and support them in that. Then nobody's going to support you because you're fighting all the time about everything, and it's actually made work way more fun for me. And I think other people can tell that too. So if you look at the progression of our business, there's like these plateaus that we bust through. And it's not like just continuously the business improves, revenue goes up, and everything's just like, oh yeah, every day is a little bit better and awesome. It really feels like there are like breakthroughs that happen, and then you slog. There's like this 2 quarters, 3 quarters, maybe a year where you're like, what are we doing? Nothing is working. You can't get through that next level. How do you as a leader speed up those breakthroughs so that the time where your business is plateauing is shorter?
Yeah. Well, the first thing is I hire really smart people. That is the key to it, because I hate this cliche, but like it does take a village. Like I have a CTO because he knows more about technology than me. I have a COO in you because you know more about operations and you're way more organized than I am, right? So surrounding yourself with a tribe that can get in the weeds with you and have really strategic meetings, and a tribe of people that aren't afraid to speak up, right? Challenge assumptions is one of our core values. We want people to start fights at every level of the organization and call things out when they see them. And so we have this, I don't know if decentralized is the right word, but we empower people to speak up at all levels of the organization, because you get insight from those corners that can uncover huge problems that need to be fixed and huge opportunities. And so having that intelligence throughout the whole firm as just this layer of signals and warning signs that are going off is an incredible flow of intelligence for a CEO. So that culturally makes getting over those blips a lot easier. And I think you brought, and I can't remember, what was the name of was it Amazon that has the, we're not going to use slide decks in meetings anymore.
Yeah.
Write a memo. If you have an idea, write a memo and make sure everybody reads it before the meeting so you can actually spend your time talking through the problem together. That's how we have our leadership meetings now, thanks to you bringing that trick to the table. And so many times I've had a member of my C-suite write up a memo that is very serious. Like, I think we need to fundamentally change this one thing we're doing, and it's going to make a big difference for us. And it's not always, it's usually not my idea, right? But they bring it to the table. All of our leadership team reads it ahead of time, jots down notes, comes to the table. We solve big problems, we make big changes that way. So I think that it comes down to hiring smart people, decentralizing and allowing intelligence to come to you from everywhere, and then having really efficient meetings and allowing your leaders to bring ideas forward.
Yeah, there used to be a reason why people had briefcases. You have these important documents to read that you would sit down and really think about and bring to the meeting a serious approach to the problem. I think that writing it out carries a different gravity than, oh, I got this idea, let me just tell you about it quick. You can't really process it.
One of my favorite podcasts is Jordan Peterson, and he talks about this a lot. He talks about the only way to think is really to write. You're not really thinking unless you're writing. And so, yes, 100%, I agree with that. It's like, that's how you actually can learn from yourself and actually like materialize a thought that can really be compounded upon and brought to the table. But you have to write. Yeah.
I love, and one of our other guests today is Chelsea, who's a content creator for Intrinio, senior content creator. So I think that's very apropos. And you made me think of something else, which is I was asking about how do you break through those levels of growth? So we'll bring all these smart people together. And as I look back over Intrinio's progression, the idea that one battle, that one thing we had to change to move to the next level, it always came from someone different. At one point in our growth, it might be our director of marketing has an idea, or director of finance, or someone on the dev team says, hey, we should build this thing. And all of a sudden you latch onto that idea. If you don't have those people at the table with you and the openness to say, I can't think of every solution all the time, that's what the team is for, that makes a lot of sense why you would be able to bust down barriers more quickly. So having that diversity of opinions at the table, with lots of perspectives.
I must say there's also like no better feeling as a leader to be like, damn, like when somebody brings something forward and it comes from somewhere that you just and you are just, there's this feeling, I can't even kind of put my finger on it as a leader, you're like proud, right? And it's like the best feeling when one of my people solves a problem for me, right? It's a great feeling. It's a sign that you've hired great people.
Yeah, I love that feeling. Making someone else successful, making it about their ideas coming to the table, bringing them forward, and before you know it, you don't have to think anymore. There you go.
Perfect. I'm out of a job.
I'm out of here.
Bye.
Okay. Well, that's it, Rachel. Mom will be so proud. Thank you for
Hi, Mom.
Here. Hey, Mom. Okay.
Well,
all right.
Thank you.